Each morning, real RSI setups are broken down with entry strategies and the technical reasoning behind every trade. This is RSI Trade of the Day with Verified Investing.
Welcome to the RSI Trade of the Day. My name is Benjamin Poole, head trader here at Verified Investing. And Friday, the stock market ended up closing and continued to fall. I do have some stocks that are on my watch list that I'm noticing that didn't fall quite as significant as some of the other ones. Now we've got a nice little rebound. We'll talk about a couple different stocks that I'm eyeing for a continuation move to the upside. Hood, you guys, yesterday was Friday was incredible. It got so close to our entry point for the trade of the day. However, it decided it wanted to continue a little bit lower after that, and then it almost crashed. It's getting a nice rebound now, but let's go ahead and go over the RSI recap from Friday. So here's what happened on Friday. You had this nice surge to the upside. 153.86 was that upside target. Like I said, it got really close. 153.55 is where it ended up heading to. And then all of a sudden you had this huge sell-off. This was in addition to what happened to the rest of the market. Donald Trump tweeted that there would likely be 100% tariffs on China. And so this helped with the move to the downside. However, I was noticing on the daily time frame, the RSI, you had some negative RSI divergence. So this to me told me that the upside move was overextended, and now some of the short sellers are getting out of the way. This would allow some of the regular sellers to jump in and be able to take profits and push this thing down. And that's exactly what happened. It is continuing to rebound. We are now back below this upswing trend line that I had mentioned yesterday or on Thursday. But here's a pivot low right here at $27. Secondary pivot right here is $66. Third pivot that it already got pulled back from. I often see price action get well above an upswing trend line. Usually price action gets pulled back below, and that's what's happening. So if we can stay below, now that we've recaptured this upswing trend line to the downside, with the RSI continuing to trend lower, this favors a continued move to the downside. Now, if we get down to about $122 or $100 and the RSI heads down to about the 45 or even the 40, I would be a buyer in Robinhood. This would get an opportunity for all the sellers to exhaust themselves, and then the buyers can step back in and drive this thing even higher. Intel, I was noticing the other day, also had a nice high RSI. However, if you notice where it's at in the charts, even though it is creating negative RSI divergence, if you go out and zoom out to the weekly time frame, we're still consolidating right here sideways underneath some resistance. So when the RSI is high and you're consolidating underneath resistance, this is favorable for a move to the upside. So let's go ahead. I'm not sure why this thing got disconnected. Anyway, so you got some consolidation on Intel. Nice down move today in the pre-market. However, it's still putting in bullish consolidation, so it's got likely move to the upside. RGTI, wow. I guess all these are going to do that. All right, let me go ahead and restore these connections real quick. Okay, Rigetti has been on the move. This happened on Friday as well. So the 10th had this nice down move after an up move. Look at the RSI headed lower, headed all the way down to the 30. The RSI then got a nice bounce. Couldn't take out some highs. However, Rigetti just continued to fade off. But this was a continuation move with what happened with the tariff news. And so anytime you have news in a stock, it kind of helps reset everything. And you can't really adjust. When the RSI has news or the stock has news, the RSI is slightly distorted. So that down move on Robinhood, even though it did get close to the 50 on the RSI on the back of news, that isn't necessarily a true indication of what's going on in the stock, especially if you see it in the overall markets. And so RGTI, I still think favors a move to the upside. $50 upside move, if not 55 or even 60 based on the RSI, and as strong as it's been. So look at the RSI on the daily time frame. You have this high move up here up to 88. You got this little bit of a down move. However, Rigetti is not significantly pulling back. And so 52.50 or even $55 to $60 is where I see Rigetti going. All right, let's go ahead and just jump into the RSI trade of the day. I have a stock that is moving quite nicely with the RSI. It dropped down to the 50. Now it's heading up, and now I think it's about to break out. And this stock is MP. So let's go ahead and do the RSI trade of the day. So look at what happened to MP on Friday. So you had this nice surge to the upside, all this price consolidation. MP tried to continue to break down, but it couldn't get below this low pivot until after the market closed. And now look at it in the pre-market, $85.90. If you switch to the daily time frame, this is what I love to see. So you got this huge move to the upside. The RSI was creating negative divergence. We had this nice sell-off. Look at what happened to the RSI. It dipped below the 50 and got down to about 43. And then what happened? Price ended up surging up, got a little bit, tagged this double top, got a nice pullback, stayed above the 50 or the 45, and now it's continuing higher. For me, MP has a continuation move. Now buyers can start stepping back up and pushing the price action and the RSI even higher, could get up to 82. This would likely put MP all the way up to 90 or even $100. So for me, the RSI trade of the day is shorting MP at $92.52. $92.52 is where I'm going to short MP today. I know it could go up to $100. However, I'm willing to dollar cost average into this. Although I am more bullish on this thing right now, what we're looking for is a price action to continue higher, put in some consolidation, and then you can have your next leg to the upside. Right now, again, my RSI trade of the day is $92.52. And any stop on a 15-minute closing candle above our entry price on a 15-minute closing basis will be our stop out. And on this one, I'm looking for about a 5 to 6% pullback, waiting for some consolidation. And then ultimately, I think a $100 upside target is where MP is going. This thing still has a lot of room to run based on what the RSI is telling me. All right, let's go ahead and go into a couple other charts. OKLO has been a crazy name on my list lately. You've got this beautiful upsloping trend line. We have pierced the upsloping trend line, and now I'm looking at an upside target of $175.29. If you go to the RSI, look at this. You had this nice pullback from the highs. You got a 25% pullback intraday, and it actually filled this gap pre-market. So 27% move to the downside. Now it's starting to get above the 70 on the RSI. Price action is continuing higher. So $175 is my new upside target on OKLO. You start piercing that, and we're going to $200. I think eventually with this negative RSI divergence, we will end up getting a pullback. But right now, it is still signaling to me that we have a continuation move up higher, especially if we're going to have some continued bullishness in the market. And and the other stock that I was looking at is Serve Robotics. So this had a huge move the other day. Nice pullback. However, look at this beautiful cup and handle. So you got this nice cup pattern, handle pattern. So created this rounded bottom and then this sideways to downward consolidation, and now a continuation move to the upside. Again, we did have a nice pullback. $18.27 is where I'd given you earlier. However, now I'm expecting the price action of Serve Robotics with price consolidation go up to $22.92. This is a beautiful gap fill in the charts. RSI indicating that we have higher to go in this chart. Another one, I want to give you guys one altcoin, Zcash USD. So ZEC USD. This is given negative RSI divergence. It has had a decent pullback. However, I anticipate a move all the way back up to $300. At $300, I would be a shorter. I would enter this as a swing short position, knowing that it could go up a little bit higher. But look at this move from the 28th of September, 450% move to the upside. You're going to get a nice, decent pullback. If we can get the RSI back down to about the 50, you're looking at a price back to $127. All right. So that was a lot of information for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are enjoying what's going on, please make sure you like, subscribe, share with your friends, ring that bell so you can get notified every morning. The market is open at 8:45, and stay tuned. Gareth Soloway is going to go over the craziness that happened in the markets on Friday. What happened with Bitcoin Friday dropped, some of the altcoins dropped 85%. And it wasn't just one, it was like a handful of them that dropped to 85%. Gareth Soloway, my trading game plan, is going to show you and tell you guys what's going on. So you guys don't want to miss that. He goes live in less than 4 minutes. And we'll see you guys next time in the charts. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.